Hey y'all, I'm Elisa, the Scrappy Wife behind ScrappyWife.com. There is one supply that I almost never buy, but I'm using it today. I am someone that does not typically buy these big scrap pads from Michael's or Hobby Lobby or wherever, just because I find that I don't tend to use all of the different paper in it. But I did pick these up, moment of weakness, earlier on clearance, and I thought I would use these scrap paper pads or these paper pads to work in my memory planner today and see if I can come up with a cool memory spread just using these papers. So I will put you guys on fast forward. Both of these are from Michael's. I picked them up on clearance. It's kind of clearance season at a lot of the places around. So make sure to check out your local stores. All right, let's go. So it is true that I don't normally buy these paper pads. I feel like a lot of times some of this bulk paper can go to waste. It's not double-sided. Sometimes I don't like the designs. And so I don't want to get a ton of it in my craft studio just to have paper go to waste. However, I do like how complete these paper pads are. I feel like you can create a lot of different projects with them. When I have leftover papers, most likely I'm going to use them to create cards, something like that. But they are fun to pull from to do your memory planning, and that is probably the most likely thing that I will do with them on a regular basis. Something that also happens, this is the first time I've pulled these out to use them, I will most likely be taking all of the papers out of the pad form. I feel like they are easier to use when they are loose papers. I will put them in a plastic 12 by 12 sleeve, which is how I organize all of my 12 by 12 papers. And to me, that makes it feel more like your typical paper collection and not just a paper pad. And I find it easier to store them in that way. The first step I'm going to do, actually it'll be for both of the pages that I'm going to work on today, is to mat my photos. I print my photos at home. I get questions about this all of the time, so let me tell you how I do it. I print directly from my phone. I have an Epson PictureMate PM400 printer. I've had it for years now. It works really well. I very much enjoy it. It prints all the way up to a 5x7 size, but I tend to print on 4x6 paper. I do go ahead and buy good quality photo paper. I do the Epson paper just because I think it does make a difference in the quality of the printing. I print from my phone using an app called Print to Size. As far as I know, this app is only available in the Apple iTunes store, like the Apple App Store, and it only works with iOS. So just a heads up on that. It works directly from my phone, and what I do is I crop and resize images so that 4 images print on a 4x6 piece of paper. Then once I have the images sized to print 4 images on a 4x6 paper, I print it, cut them apart, and those are pretty much sized really well for a vertical memory planning spread. It's not perfect, which again is why I tend to like to go ahead and mat my pictures. I rarely line them up within the vertical boxes. That's just not my style. If you do line yours up within the vertical boxes, you need to measure those boxes and double check that you are printing your pictures to the right size. But for me, I like to go outside the lines, outside the boxes. My memory planning, the planner part of it is more just a background, kind of a reference, and then I feel like I'm scrapbooking on top of a regular planner page. As I've been explaining my printing process, what I've been doing on my page is working with some of the cutouts from this scrap pad. So it has a few pages that are meant to be cut apart pages, meant as tags and frames and journaling cards. Love that I can use that in my spread. I'm actually gonna have these kind of faux washi strips go across both pages. Again, something I really enjoy doing in my memory planner. It makes it feel like a very cohesive spread when you connect the two sides. All I'll have to do is cut that apart later on. And I'm just gonna figure out where all of my elements are gonna go. I have this large piece over here that I could add journaling to. I actually don't end up adding journaling on this particular page, at least in that area. I'm gonna add it in a few other areas. And then I just play with where my pictures are going to go. Lately, I've been a little bit more in what I would call a wonky picture mood, meaning that none of my pictures are straight. They're all tilted one way or the other. It looks a little bit more thrown together that way. It looks a little bit more scrapbooky that way, in my opinion. And so I've just been digging that. There's times when I really line them up and times when I have them kind of crooked or wonky. And it just kind of depends on the mood I'm in when I'm scrapping, I would say. So this week I'm documenting the last 2 weeks of the school year. Yes, I'm super behind, not super behind. I'm a little bit behind on my memory planning. I'll catch up eventually. I'm definitely, working my way through, but lots of things to document from the last couple weeks, all of the end of the year games, the award ceremonies, things like that. So I have plenty of pictures to go around. I just need to figure out where they can be placed best. I like to kind of play around with the placement. And then once I am pretty sure, I go ahead and start putting things on the page. Once you start adhering things to the page, I feel like it makes decision making much easier because you have less possibilities at that point. If I'm feeling like I just don't know what direction to go with, or I don't know where to place something, or all of the things, I try just putting one thing down, and then that limits the possibilities for the rest of the things, and you can kind of build on from there. Once I had my first set of elements on the page, I noticed that there's kind of an awkward shaped white space over on the left side underneath that picture of my husband in his new blanket shirt. He actually bought that shirt. Have you ever heard, this is definitely a tangent, have you ever heard of unclaimed baggage, like being able to buy unclaimed baggage? He went to a website where you could purchase things from bags that had, been left, I guess, for a certain amount of time, never been claimed, something like that. And so anyway, this is his favorite kind of shirt. It's called a blanket shirt, and he found a great deal on it and was super proud of it. So I had to grab that picture. But anyway, back to what I was talking about. There was this weird trapped white space, and I decided to go ahead and fill it in. Luckily, there were still some cut aparts that I had not used, so this tag will be perfect. I also like that it has that rounded edge to it, because if you've watched my memory planning before, you know I'm not a big fan of all of the rectangles that tend to form on memory planning spreads. I feel like they look a little jagged, but you can't help it. When you're working with a bunch of pictures, you can't really help those rectangles. So anytime I can have a round shape or an oval shape, something like that, it definitely helps the look of it, at least to my eye, helps soften it just a little bit. There was also a weird cluster here at the bottom where things were not quite meeting up, and just to kind of, again, smooth it out, change it up, I'm just going to add one other little kind of gold foil square right in this area, and it softens that edge. It makes it look a little bit more intentional in that moment. Next thing I'm going to do, this is going to go pretty fast because all I have to do is add the journaling. I need to repunch these holes, add some journaling lines, do the journaling, and then this page is going to come to an end. So when you use one of these scrap pads, it does tend to come together pretty fast, because anytime you limit your choices, then it's easier to make decisions. So pulling out a scrap pad to do a memory planning spread is a great technique in order to just put this spread together quickly. If you're looking at all of your supplies at once, it can be overwhelming. It can be hard to decide where to start. But if you use a scrap pad or a specific collection, something like that, just narrow it down, start with that, then the decisions kind of roll off a little bit easier. All right, so spread number 2 is a different scrap pad. This one definitely feels much more like summer. It's got like watermelons and fruit and pictures of umbrellas. It has kind of a seaside fun feel, and because this was the very last week of school, I thought that would be a fun one to include. And actually, I'm not going to use any of the large pieces of paper. I'm going to use the cut aparts. There's actually a couple of different sheets in this one, and I'm only going to use this yellow stripe to mat my pictures. Otherwise, we're going to actually cover this spread with cut aparts, which is a fun way to take up a lot of room. As you might have seen before my channel, I like to take up a lot of the white space. It's not that I'm anti-white space on my page. I just am a little bit more of a maximalist. I like to cover all of the space. I like to use a lot of different colors. I like words. I like to just throw it all out there. So I'm going to cover most of the space, but instead of using big pieces of scrapbook paper, torn scrapbook paper, different things that I might normally do, instead I'm going to use these cut aparts, and we are going to stick with the color scheme of the yellow and then that kind of light minty green color as well. Once I have all my pieces cut out, again, it's about just finding where things are going to work on the page. I tend to start on the sides or start with the background. These are actually super fun. I love setting the tone here on the side of the page. These are, again, those kind of faux washi strip pages. Super pretty. It has all the colors that I want. So we will just put this on the side. Yes, it covered up the month. I'm not super concerned about that. I'll be able to figure out that this is June just based on where it is in my memory planner. We're going to put pieces on the edges of both of these pages. Helps to frame in the full layout. And I like that this one is skinnier so that it doesn't cover up the date or anything like that. So starting with that, and then I start with my biggest elements, which in this case are the journaling cards, and then go from there as far as adding in pictures and other tag pieces. It's all about just playing with the placement. Do I put the pictures on the actual day they happened? Yes and no. I try to keep it loosely near the days that it actually occurred, but sometimes I have a ton of pictures. For instance, my kiddos did, and after like the last day of school, we all went to the pool with a bunch of friends and hung out. It's kind of a tradition in our neighborhood for everyone to head to the neighborhood pool. And so I had a ton of pictures from that particular day. No, it didn't happen on Thursday through Sunday, but it all happened around the same time. So it's okay. I will know when that event happened. And actually, this is one of those, I don't need to know the specific day of the week. I just know kind of the time of the year that it all occurred. Once I have everything basically where I want, then I go ahead and start adhering things down. And sometimes things do get slightly tweaked in the process. Sometimes as I'm putting it down, we have just a little bit of movement going on. This one actually stays pretty close to where I had placed it when I was just kind of fidgeting with things and moving things around. But it can kind of go back and forth. So it's okay to move things, to make decisions on the fly. No big deal. Sometimes it just looks a little bit different once you take it off and put it back down. A technique I've seen people use when they are kind of messing with the placement of things on a page before they actually take them off to adhere them down, they grab a picture. They take a picture of what the layout they want looks like so that they have that to reference. Because man, once you move those photos, it's amazing how quickly the layout you had planned kind of escapes from your head. It just like falls out of my brain. So sometimes things get moved just a bit, but in the end, this one's going to work out pretty well. Look how cute it all looks. And I love the yellow and green combo here. I think it is adorable. Now I have a couple of awkward white spaces that are left, and I didn't know quite what I wanted to do with those. They're not big enough for journaling. So what I'm going to do is actually take some washi tape that I had in my stash, and I'm going to create my own little pattern. We're going to do a yellow striped pattern in these trapped areas. And to me, it fills it in nicely. It's almost like creating your own paper that would have gone in there. I struggle a little bit with some of the spacing. It's not going to be perfect, but I am having fun kind of filling that in. It's another way to use washi tape. It's kind of making your own faux paper, fun pattern, and it's filling in those little spots that I just don't like them in my spread. So we're going to fill those in with some yellow stripes. Let's add them down here. And then the tricky part is adding it around the curve at the top. I'm not totally sure that I did it the best possible way. I'll show you how it ends up in just a second. So I'm going to add it up here at the top, have it go all the way across. This part I like, and then it's because I added another line. So I decided, well, I'll fill in this part with a little line. I'll come back with my craft knife, cut the edges that go across, and just kind of get that line impression. But then I didn't continue both lines all the way across, so it's a little bit awkward. I feel like it needs a little bit more as far as the washi tape goes. And you can let me know down in the comments below, should I add more washi tape? Here's what I'm saying. I put it over here because I was like, oh, that's weird that there's random white space. Let me just trim that off. And then that was the last piece I put. So that feels slightly out of place to me. Let me know down in the comments below. Once I finish with the washi tape though, I'm going to add one last detail with some puffy alpha stickers that say "School's Out" within that white circle, just for a little emphasis. And then I will go ahead and add the journaling, and that's going to be it for these memory planning spreads. So do you buy these paper pads, or do you avoid them like I do? If you do buy them, what do you use them for? Do you find yourself actually using all the paper? Let me know. I'd love to hear your opinions down in the comment box. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Consider hitting that subscribe button as well as the bell notification button so you'll be the first to know when I release a new video. All of the supplies I used are linked down below in that description box. I want to give a huge shout out to all of my Patreon members. Thank you all for always inspiring me to live my most creative life. If you're looking for a fun and creative community to be a part of, then go ahead and check out Patreon down below. You can find extra perks and you can start your free trial at any point. All right, I hope that you have a fabulous day. And as always, keep it creative.